AI agents are everywhere, automating tasks and making decisions at machine speed. But agents make mistakes. Just one rogue agent can do big damage before you even notice. Rubrik Agent Cloud is the only platform that helps you monitor agents, set guardrails, and rewind mistakes, so you can unleash agents, not risk. Accelerate your AI transformation at Rubrik.com. That's RUBRIK.com.
You are listening to the One Day at a Time podcast. On this podcast, my guests share their stories of alcoholism, addiction, and how they recovered so that you can too. My hope is that you find the inspiration and resources you need to let go of what's holding you back so that you can transform into the person you were always meant to be. Ready? Here we go. Hello, loves. Thank you for downloading the podcast. My name is Arlena, and I'll be your host. In case we haven't met yet, I'm a certified recovery coach and hypnotist. I help people get sober, stay sober, and go deeper through scientifically proven tools and spiritual practices. I have been practicing abstinence from drugs and alcohol since April 23rd of 94. I have seen recovery grow and evolve over the years with a lot of different options now. I encourage you to explore it all and find what works for you. If you need help or want to talk to me personally, I'm here for you. Just go to soberlifeschool.com and you can book some time with me. Today, my guest is John Mabry. John shares his journey to sobriety, his life of sobriety, and eventual relapse. We talk a lot about what it's been like to come back and how he has found a new hope, new purpose, and where he is today. I really felt inspired after we finished our conversation, and I hope you will too. So with that, please enjoy this episode with John. Well, John, thank you so much for joining me on the podcast today.
Hey, thank you so much for having me, Lynn. It's an honor to be here. It really is.
Well, listen, I'm having you back. I've been having a lot of guests back, and you're a returning guest. We were just trying to figure out when the last time we spoke. It's probably been about 4 years, and you had shared your story on the last episode, so I will definitely leave a link to that. You could also find your first episode, for those who are listening, to go to odatchat.com and just do a search for John, and it'll pop right up. But I thought it would be important to speak to you today because when I reached out, I was like, hey, what are you doing? Are you still doing your podcast? What's going on? I've been watching your recovery journey. And you had shared that you've had a lot of changes. And I think it is so important. And by the way, thank you for being willing to share your story because I know you've had some difficult challenges in the last little bit. And so I am really interested in hearing how you're managing that and continuing to nurture your recovery during this process. So thanks so much for being willing to come on.
Absolutely. Yeah. To be honest, I'm definitely have some nerves and have some anxiety just about, putting myself back out there after doing so well and being kind of so high up in the recovery world and then falling again and then having to, pick myself back up and dust myself off with help from others and get going again. So, and I think it's part of my healing as well. And I think that's what I would love listeners to understand is that, there's lessons to be learned. It doesn't mean that the success or the sobriety that you had prior to a relapse doesn't count. That still counts. If you had 2 days or you had 2 years, you still learn something in those 2 days and you can start where you left off and keep going as opposed to just keep going backwards. And that's been a challenge to have to work through those feelings of like, I don't know if I want to keep doing this again. Can I do it again? Am I going to keep failing? I failed so many times. Am I going to fail again? But, one thing I have done is I haven't given up. I haven't given up and I keep going one day at a time. So
yeah, one day at a time. I like that. And I mean that I don't drink and use anymore, but I struggle in other areas, right? And it's a common experience to, the trying and failing is a common, like the situations might be different, but the feelings are all the same, right?
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
But in regards specifically to your recovery, do you want to walk me through, so you had your drinking and using experience, you found recovery, and let's start from there, because you did mention that you had high visibility in the recovery community. You had the podcast High Sobriety. You were talking to a lot of people. You had a lot of visibility. How about we start from there, and maybe you can walk me back to where we are now?
Yeah. So for those of you who are just kind of tuning in for the first time, haven't heard the first episode yet, addicted to painkillers and alcohol and other prescription pills after a car accident, lost my leg 22 years ago. Ended up in LA doing acting stunt work, getting blown up on Hollywood sets and in People magazine and the movie Superbad and NCIS and ER. So it was high profile, stuff back then. And after just, constant things just progressively got worse when I found my brother dead from an overdose out in LA. So, entered recovery in 2011. And after losing a prestigious job. And so I was in treatment 5 times in 7 years. And came out of one of the treatment centers, had such a great experience at their center that I wanted to work for them. And so they brought me on just on the phones. And I started off just working on the phones. And they saw my skill set and saw what I could bring to the table. And things progressed in some promotions. And ended up working as a director of public outreach for the organization. And they asked me to host their podcast. And so I was bringing on folks like yourself and other folks, talk about their journeys and their stories, just like we're doing today. They had me going out to colleges and universities, sharing my story with college kids, talking about, for my brother, we didn't get him help. It was the stigma of addiction that killed my brother, not the drugs, I believe. And so it was like, we didn't want to talk about my brother struggling. And so we didn't get him help that he needed because we didn't look bad on our family. And he ended up passing, where I've been able to speak up and be honest. And as hard as that is to step over that threshold of like, I don't know if I'm struggling and I need help, to actually getting help. Where I've got a chance to live, I got a chance to, to recover. And so working for this addiction treatment center and going around, and I was talking to businesses and sharing I created a drug-free workplace program for the organization. So I would go into businesses for free. We would just offer a drug-free workplace training, 1-hour course, and share my story and offer some suggestions if somebody in the audience or a family member or neighbor, somebody that they knew was struggling, and direct them to our treatment centers. And so it was just a dream job. I couldn't have asked for anything more. The thing was, I wasn't doing my own recovery during that time. Toward the end, I was using the job as my recovery, And so the company got bigger and they sold out to some new investors and they let a bunch of us go. And I was one of them. They're like, hey, we don't need you anymore. And so that, I took that like, oh my gosh, I'm not needed. And once that work went away that I was using as my recovery, I had a relapse then. And went back to treatment for the last time I went to treatment, and led to divorce. And so my wife is gone, the house is gone, the kids are gone, job is gone, and I'm back in the sober living house for 7 months. Got out of treatment, went to a sober living house for 7 months after being on top and doing so well.
That's a long time.
Yeah, but I did it on purpose because I knew I was going through this divorce. I knew this process was going to be, hairy and very emotional, and I didn't want to be alone. I didn't want to be living by myself during this time.
Smart.
So I made that tough decision to go, I'm going to stick around longer.
Can I just say that's super courageous. That's a decision made in true humility, and it's very wise to surround yourself with so much support. Yeah.
And a lot of times folks like myself, when you're coming out of treatment, you don't want to go to a sober living place. You don't want to do what the suggestions that they're telling you to do. You want to do your own thing. You think, in the past, I thought I known the path, and I stumbled because I didn't listen to the people who were sane and supportive around me, wanted the best for me. And so I've learned that through the school of hard knocks of like, I should listen to the people outside of me, my folks, my friends, family members going, why don't you just stay where you're at while you get through this process, so you're not alone going through it. And so I'm grateful I did that for sure. So COVID hits. I'm living on my own for the first time in my life, and again, the house and wife and kids are gone. And about 1.5 years ago, I started drinking again. And, I just got super depressed during COVID, put on 40 pounds, and really hadn't been that depressed as far as I can remember.
Wow.
And so I started drinking for a short period of time, but I only get my kids 24 hours a week on the weekend. I only get them for 24 hours. And so I made the terrible decision to drink while I was with my children. And my oldest son, 13 at the time, smelled it on my breath and did what he was supposed to do, and that's call his mother, Mom, I smell alcohol on Dad's breath. And she came and picked up the kids. And a day or two later, I quit drinking after that. And here's what I did is I could have just kept drinking. I could have just, okay, now I'm in trouble. Now I got caught. I'm just going to keep at this. And so I made the decision to call somebody. And so I'm about to go back into public speaking, which I was doing several years ago. I'm looking to put myself back out there. And kind of my tagline is mental health and addiction simplified. And so I just had to simplify things of going, okay, I have all these resources. I know all these people in the recovery world. I've been through these treatment centers. I interviewed, high profile people, and I have people in, phone numbers in my phone. But I said, I just need to call one person that I can call to come over to my house and help me hit the reset button. So I specifically called somebody that I knew I respected and would listen to. And he is a ex-Navy SEAL of 20 years. He was in SEAL Team 6, who took down bin Laden, right? So he was a guy who gathered all the data. Him and his team gathered all the computers and cell phones. And he took bin Laden's watch off of his dead wrist.
Wow.
In the compound. And he threw his body down on top of bin Laden's body as the helicopter took off out of the compound to leave. And so this guy's seen some stuff. He's gone, within a 48-hour period. He's in Coronado, Navy training out in California and San Diego. And within 48 hours, he's in some other part of the world leading 300 guys from, 300 soldiers from Cambodia. I'm like, if he can get these guys on board to take a mission that's life and death, I think he can come over, because mine was life and death too. It was life and death. It was like, if I just keep drinking, I can drink myself to death.
Yeah.
Or I could hurt somebody, or continue to put my children in harm's way. So I called somebody that I knew I would listen to, and that wouldn't be easy on me. So, but he was easy on me. He came over and we started talking. And he said, "Look," he just broke it down like this to keep it simple. He said, "You just need to do 2 things today. I just want you to do 2 things today, just 2 things, and get a piece of paper and write down 2 things. I suggest one of them is take a shower." It's like, okay, all right, take a shower. And he said, "What's one other thing you can do today?" I said, "You know what? I need to call my sponsor. And like, because I was, there's that shame of like, oh, I let my sponsor down. What's he going to think of me? Is he going to fire me? How's that going to go?"
That's a big one.
Dude, I did not want to make that call, but I did it while he was there. I stepped outside while my buddy was there and said, "All right, I need you to stay here while I call my sponsor. Otherwise, if you leave, I'm going to not want to call my sponsor."
Yeah.
I'm going to want to say, "Yeah, I'm going to do it." And then I'll do it.
Right. I'll do it later.
Yeah.
That's my favorite excuse.
Yeah. I'll take care of that later.
Yeah.
So we just broke it down. 2 things: take a shower and call my sponsor. And so I started with that. And then the next day he said, keep your pad of paper, put a little, draw a little box and write 3 things you can do today. And just started. I just had to start all over, and get back to a meeting. And so now today I'm down 30 of the 40 pounds. I've been sober a year and a half. I'm off antidepressants. I was on for 21 years.
Okay.
I'm more mentally clear, more spiritually connected than I've ever been in my life. And I wouldn't be here, I don't think, if I didn't go through what I went through, and wasn't willing to put in the work every single day. Now, so I also had to take a step back and say, all right, I relapsed again after knowing all this information. What's not working for me? And all these treatment centers promote AA, AA. Mm-hmm. I listened to AA meeting this morning online. And one resource that's been huge for me is aahomegroup.org.
Okay.
And aahomegroup.org. I have their webpage open on my phone all day, every day, right here. I click on join meeting. Within 30 seconds, I'm connected to a meeting 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. At the top of every hour, they start a new meeting.
Wow,
and
that's awesome.
There's never less than 120 people on the call. I've never been on with less than 120 people. So you got people from Ireland and London and Australia. You got a guy in Tel Aviv. This guy Benny in Tel Aviv's got like 40 plus years. He chimes in pretty regularly. And so that's a way I listened to it in my car yesterday. So in the morning before I even get out of bed, I have a meeting playing. So I'm immediately filling myself with good, positive, information. Mm-hmm. So that's been one thing that I've done. And then secondly, going, okay, well, AA for me, as much as I went to AA, it just didn't click. Something wasn't clicking. And so,
why? What, do you know what it was?
I don't know. I don't know. I don't know if it was my ego, like I'm too good for AA, I don't know. I tried, and I still go. I still go in person and online. So there's nothing wrong with AA. For something just wasn't clicking. Okay. So what I did is I joined Celebrate Recovery, which is
that's a religious-based organization.
So, well, it's not religious. I'm sorry. It is. It's a Christ-centered recovery program. Same 12 steps. Instead of having a higher power of your understanding, it's Christ.
Okay, they just define it. Yeah.
So I think that's maybe where I saw all these people recovering in AA, but I grew up in the church. My grandfather was a high profile preacher for 40 years of his career, personal friends with Billy Graham. They came up at the same time in Minnesota. So when I got back into the church, because I was like, because I had issues with the church. I had issues with religion coming into recovery.
Me too.
Like, right? Like a lot of us do. And so I shied away from it. But at the same time, I feel like I had all these failures and relapses that said, all right, why don't you try that again? So I went back to the church. And what's great about the Celebrate Recovery program is you don't just do the 12 steps with your sponsor. You have a sponsor, but they have every so often, a couple times a year, depending on the church you go to, they have a step study program. And so I went to one of my first Celebrate Recovery meetings on Thursday night, pretty similar as an AA meeting, but they were like, hey, in a few weeks, we're starting a men's step study. And I just signed up for it. They said it's a year-long commitment. You meet once a week for 2 hours with the other guys in the group, and you work the 12 steps as a group, in a group. So I found that extremely beneficial, and having to show up every single Monday for 2 hours, Monday night, 6:30 to 8:30, with 9 other guys. And so we had homework each week. We go through the workbooks, and you're filling out your answers, and then you go. He's sharing his stuff. I go and I'm like, dude, he's sharing that. That's bold. Man, maybe I need to share this. So as opposed to just a one-on-one with the sponsor, now you're getting a group setting. And then I'm building these deeper relationships with people that I and I can't make excuses. It was my own fault that I didn't build in Alcoholics Anonymous. I didn't take the initiative to go to an AA meeting and then take the initiative to go meet people and go hang out with them and talk about my real problems with other people in the program. It's really just my sponsor that I used.
Yeah.
So I'm not making excuses for the program. It's my own fault. And a lot of people dive in and they get that core group of people around them in their AA meetings, in their home groups. I just never did that. But I was able to, that kind of naturally came as a part of this step study group for a year. So now I have these other accountability partners.
So what happens after the 1 year?
So after the 1 year, you get done with your step study, and you feel so much lighter. You feel so much better after it. And then we're waiting for another step study to start here soon.
Oh, you can start. Okay, you can get back.
I'm going to do another one. One. So what we actually did is our group, we felt the whole last November, we ended in November, and like the month of November, kind of through December, we were all like on Monday nights, we're like, we miss each other. Like, I miss you guys. Like, seriously. So now we meet every Monday night at 6:30, the time that our meeting would have started. We meet for dinner. Anybody who can show up. There's 10 or 12 of us on the text thread.
Nice.
And so every Monday night, anybody who can show up for dinner, we meet for dinner. And,
okay, so you're continuing the fellowship. You're continuing this, because it's like, they talk about a sufficient substitute in the 12-step rooms, and so this does feel like, it's so interesting because, and this has come up for me a lot lately. Meetings are not the program; it's working the steps. The steps are the program. But the fellowship is so important because the disease, let's call it, is one of isolation. The mental illness, it's one of isolation, and connection is definitely the cure, in my mind. Yep. So you have ongoing connection. Okay, that's what I was like. Oh, what happens after?
So we meet on Monday nights. So I still see the guys then. We text all throughout the morning. It's like guys have already sent a few texts this morning saying Happy Good Friday to everybody. So I'm in this positive group chat on a regular basis. And we send funny jokes about recovery and things on there. And then we meet on Thursday nights at the church for our CR weekly CR meetings. So I see everybody then too.
So in my mind, it's so important to address the crisis of getting out of the obsession to use, right? The cravings, the obsession to use, like the crisis part. And then what happens in my mind, it's like, okay, what next? Okay, you get sober, what next? And it sounds like this, the Celebrate Recovery and the year-long commitment allowed you to go deeper in a support group.
Exactly. Yep. It wasn't just a one-time 1 week meeting with my therapist. It wasn't just going to a meeting and leaving, or going to a few meetings and leaving. It was like, we're working life together. How many men sit down and talk about their freaking feelings? And how many men are sitting around crying with each other in a group setting? You don't get that very often.
No.
Even in an AA meeting, I don't see that where men are, I do see it sometimes, but when you have a tight group of 10 guys every single week coming together and sharing their deepest, darkest secrets, their pornography issue, their marital issues, their, issues with their children and their financial issues, all that stuff. And you're hearing it. You're getting healing here and their stuff, and they're getting healing here and their stuff. So yeah, it's just a more tight-knit group.
It feels like that's where the magic happens. And I love what you're describing. It's a small group of a core group of men, and you build trust over time by sharing things that you wouldn't normally share and getting vulnerable and really honest, and then allowing them to support you or maybe even giving you suggestions or ideas on how to handle. So you mentioned a couple of things sort of in passing, but things like pornography or how to handle like going through a divorce or money issues or childhood issues, like all that stuff comes up when we go deep, right? Yep. And it's so important to have a safe place with people you trust to be able to process that stuff out loud.
Yep. And so here's what happened with me. This is so funny. So I'm in the group kind of about halfway through. I'm feeling better, got through step 4 and 5, dumped all that stuff on my sponsor. We continue to work. And here comes my ego. My ego starts coming back. I want to go back into speaking, because that's really where I feel alive when I'm on stage or I'm sharing. And even this is like, I feel alive doing this kind of stuff.
Yeah. And
so I wanted to get back into speaking, and my sponsor pulls me aside and he said, do you think you're ready for that yet? And of course I didn't want to hear that. I'm like, no, I want to go from 0 to 100 now. I want to go from from a relapse, and being let go from a great job where I was doing speaking for a living. And I want to go from nothing to, back to where I was immediately. And he said, how about we try this? He said, what's something else you can do to be of service to people that's kind of in line with that can kind of start working you toward that? And here's what we came up with: driving Uber. And I'm thinking, what? He goes, what about driving Uber? And I'm thinking, screw you, man. Do you know who I am? Like, you know who I know. Like, I partied at the Playboy Mansion with Adam Sandler. Like, I'm not driving Uber. But here's what happened. The magic happened. One, I listened to a suggestion by somebody else.
Magical.
And I took the advice and I tried it. You don't have to stick with it, but I tried it. And what I found is when I would drive people around here in the Nashville area, is the number one question you get is, hey, are you from here? I said, no, I'm not actually from here. I'm from Texas. And I got a crazy story how I got driving this Uber. I was in a car wreck in Texas in college, lost my leg, blah, blah, ended up in LA doing a bunch of acting and stunt work. And I fell into addiction. I found my brother dead from overdose, and I've been through all these treatment centers and blah, 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 blah. And it opens up all kinds of conversations. It's not a conversation you typically have with an Uber driver, right?
No.
And so it's a way where I found I could just slowly share my story one ride at a time when it was appropriate. And I just found healing in that. I started to build some more confidence back in myself of like, okay, I don't have to be on a stage. I don't have to be, on a network television show to make a difference and to be of service. One, I'm driving people around. I'm getting out of myself. I'm getting out of my ego. And I'm like, hey, I'm going to drive you from point A to point B as safely as possible. And so I'm providing a service. And then I'm also sharing and learning from them. And all of a sudden they open up. I've had women crying in the back of my car.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. I need to go back to therapy. You said something that, because I talk about, I had some childhood trauma as well. And sometimes I bring that up. It's like, sometimes if you had childhood trauma that you don't realize you had.
May I ask you what kind of childhood trauma?
Yeah. So I went to a trauma therapist years ago after probably 2 stints in treatment. And she said, I told her about my car accident, my brother's death. And she said, thank you for telling me that. I don't really care. What I care about is what happened to you as a kid. She didn't say it that way, but that's how I heard it.
Okay. I was like, wow, that's harsh.
She said, what happened to you as a child? And I was like, what? So I've been through 2 or 3 treatment centers. What are you talking about? She said,
nobody asked you that before?
No, nobody ever asked me what happened to you as a kid.
Wow.
Because everybody just thought a car accident, I had my leg amputated, got access to
everyone's
pills.
Focused on that.
Everybody's like, oh, that's the catalyst of why you went off the rails.
Okay.
Was the car wreck. And so, but she saw through that. She said, there's something else. Something happened to you as a child that sets you up for reacting in the way that you did. And I said, the only thing I can think of is I had some ear surgeries as a kid. I said, long time ago, not a big deal. She said, no. And this was a phone consult. I hadn't even seen her yet. She goes, when you come in, we're going to start with that. And I guarantee you we're going to get to where your problem started by starting with that. And I said, what? So through this process of multiple sessions with her, we had what's called a graphic narrative. And I would sit down with blank pieces of paper and crayons. And I started drawing these little scenes of my childhood. And what came out of that, several sessions, I wrote it down. She had me put it up on the wall. So now it's outside of me. That information that I have in my head and in my spirit is on paper. It's outside of me. Then we put it up on the wall and I'm reading and I'm telling her about it like a movie. Like, you know what? This is removed from me. I'm not, that's not affecting me anymore. Or actually it was affecting me, but it doesn't have to affect me. if I speak it.
It wasn't like
And
re-traumatizing you. It was outside of you, so it didn't feel like it was re-traumatizing you.
yeah, exactly.
Okay,
It was
got
safe.
it.
I was
It was
writing it
safe.
down.
Okay.
It felt safe. I was like, oh, so it's over there. Oh, now I can see it from a distance. Now you kind of see it from back far away of that. So what happened is, as a child, I had 6 ear surgeries. I just had ear infections a lot as a kid, tubes twice.
Yeah.
I ended up having to fly out of state for an eardrum transplant, and the 3 bones in my left ear are prosthetic bones. So that was probably age 12, where I came out of that super supportive family, loving environment, extended family, friends. I mean, I was well liked at school. I was senior year at prom. I was named class clown, most outgoing, most school spirited, and best personality. But what came out of this graphic narrative with the trauma therapist was I felt as a child defective, broken. I'm insecure about myself. I'm unfixable. There's something wrong with me that they can't even fix because they have to put somebody else's body part in my head, and then also one of the drawings I drew was me on the hospital bed going in for surgery, and these doctors with these lights, these bright lights just shining down on my head. And I felt like an alien, they're probing, like aliens are probing into my brain. Like I'm on Mars or something. These guys got the mask on and the face shields, and it's cold in there, and they got needles in you. And I just felt like a lab rat kind of thing,
Mm-hmm.
So what came out of those experiences was I'm broken, I'm defective, I'm different, I'm not like everybody else. And so I took on this personality of class clown and super outgoing. And the therapist was like, interesting, because you felt like this as a kid, but you portrayed this. And I was like, oh man, that's huge to recognize that. And so I think it's important. I think a lot of people, and it doesn't have to be a major trauma per se. It could be a lot of small little things. I've read, it's called adverse childhood experiences for the listeners who haven't heard of there's a whole field of study on ACE. It's called ACEs, adverse childhood experiences. You can go online and print out the ACE questionnaire. I think it's like 10 questions or so with some sub questions.
That's actually a really good barometer.
Yeah. So if you fill that out, the more ACEs you have, the higher risk of anxiety, depression, addiction, obesity, things like that. So I was grateful to be able to learn about that. And again, it doesn't have to be some major, it could be, a sexual trauma, but it could be psychological.
And I think this is a very common experience is we have trauma and then we minimize it.
It's not as bad as somebody else has it worse. Mine's not that bad.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it can be something like if a child was left alone a lot, if they felt lonely because their both parents worked, you came home from school and you were alone a lot.
Yeah.
And you had to take care of your younger siblings, and you were put in a parental role early on.
Yeah.
There may be resentment and fear and anger that came along with that experience as a child. Or I've heard about people who their parents didn't pick them up on time at school after school because they were working late, and they were the last one to be picked up time and time again. And they felt neglected.
Right.
They felt unseen. And those little kind of, death from 1,000 paper cuts, so small little things over a period of time can make a child feel less than or feel fearful. So
isn't that interesting? It's like these bad experiences that we have, we internalize the meaning to, and it doesn't matter what the situation is, the meaning always seems to come back to the same thing, and it all ends up being like, I'm not good enough. And I almost started crying when you're talking about being defective and broken and things are never going to change. I'm always going to, I totally relate to all that stuff too. Even in, long-term recovery, that stuff is still very real to me. Even if I am doing all the self-care, it's just so interesting how those early childhood experiences sort of set in neuroscience terms, they call it the default mode network. Like your brain is hardwired that way.
Yeah.
Right. And we need the sufficient substitute to help us sort of change that thermostat where we sort of rise above all that stuff. It's very hard, not easy.
Yeah. So that's why we keep coming back, right?
That's why Yeah. I was at a meeting one time and they were talking about a sufficient substitute. And I was thinking, man, I need a bunch of substitutes because I had a bunch of drugs of choices. There was drugs, alcohol, men, shopping, achievement, knowledge.
Achievements. That's a big one. I don't think a lot of people look at, but a lot of people realize is achievements. You're driven to succeed in your field or, school or, gain, diplomas or whatever it is. But it can come back to you don't feel good enough unless you achieve that, and it's continuing to learn in recovery is to learning to be happy exactly where I'm at right now. So I don't have to be public speaking right now to be happy. I'm actually content and happy driving some Uber. So anyway.
Well, and listen, this is so interesting. Maybe you and I are going to work some shit out right here.
Let's do it. Bring it on.
Well, because, and I wonder what you think, because I'm a podcast host. I do a lot of writing. I do a lot of social media. And I have to stop and ask myself, am I doing this out of ego? Because I am sort of hardwired to seek external validation. That's just part of my childhood experience, kind of set me up that way. But just like you, I have that internal drive to share my experience in hopes that it will help somebody else. But it's a very thin line between, it's so easy to hide a bad motive behind a good one. Do you struggle with that too?
Not as much today. So I'll say one more thing.
Oh, it's just me?
No.
I'm just kidding. I'm just playing. I'm playing. So
another thing that I've done to add to the Uber is I've started doing a pedicab. I'm a pedicab bike driver downtown Nashville.
What's that?
We're like one of the big tourist destinations in the U.S. We've taken over Vegas as the bachelorette capital of the U.S. It's nuts now. It's like Bourbon Street now, Thursday through Sunday, a lot of times Wednesday through Sunday in downtown Nashville. And so I drive an electric bike with a 3-seater cab on the back, and I drive people around downtown. And again, it's being a service. And I play the leg thing up. I put Christmas lights around my leg. I have a shirt that says leg story $20, and it helps get extra tips. People go, dude, what happened to your leg? And so I'm able to, again, share quickly in a short amount of time, share my story and say, I'm actually doing this to stay sober tonight instead of sitting at home. Since I don't have my kids, today or this weekend, I'm actually out here being a service. And I just say it's an honor to serve you tonight.
Aww.
And so that ego for me gets broken down of going, you know what? It's not about doing something big and grand. But what I do is I pray before I go out. If I Uber or do the pedicab, I pray and ask God to send me who He wants me to serve that evening, or send me somebody that I can learn from every single time. And so it immediately gets me out of the way. Whatever my motives are, if I want to make, I want to get a lot of tips. I want to make as much money as I can. That's my main. That can be my main drive, and that's ego.
Yeah.
Or I can go into it and say, Lord, just keep me safe out on the road, and bring me whoever I'm supposed to meet tonight.
Bring me whoever I'm supposed to serve.
So like for you, prior to a podcast, Lord, send me whoever I'm supposed to, bring on as a guest next time. Maybe there's a week where you don't have a guest or two lined up, a week or two, you don't have guests lined up, and you have kind of a hole, and that's okay. God's got it. Mm-hmm. You don't have to control that. God's got you. God's got your program. God's got your, He knows where your heart is. A lot of times it's just giving up my self-will and my desire to want to do the best that I can, and go, God, help me do the best that you want me to do today, or the best that you can.
That is so beautiful. I mean, you're twice now. You're almost making me cry. Such a beautiful, in a good way, right? Like I always think, you know what I tell people? I tell people that I make people cry for a living.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, because I coach women that are in a very similar, like I know what it feels like because I'm in it too, right? Like I'm in recovery too, and I'm wrestling with my stuff too. And I feel like I come from this place of, it's so much easier for me to be compassionate towards somebody else, right? And people say things to me that they're ashamed about, and I'm like, hold up, you're not lazy, you're in pain, you're paralyzed. That's a trauma response. Or like I when people really feel seen and heard and understood, it brings tears to people's eyes. And for me, that means I've created a safe place for somebody that they feel safe enough to release. Like tears are like pain leaving the body.
Yes, absolutely.
Right.
And there's so much healing. There's healing there. A lot of people don't want to cry. They don't want to cry because they feel weak. But it's like you're strong. If you allow yourself to cry, there's strength in that, and there's healing in that. Let it out, guys.
Let it out. Yeah.
Yes.
And I feel like that's rooted in compassion, right? Like you and I can have compassion for each other. Like, what it feels like to have childhood trauma. And when I express, oh, I'm struggling with all this stuff, you can be like, oh, that's, you're not bad. That's your childhood trauma. You deserve to be forgiven for that. And it's like, oh, that's right. 'Cause I get confused. Right. I think, I'm bad. It's my fault. It's like I should have done something different. Don't you?
I should be over this. This shouldn't be bothering me at this point in my life.
I know.
Yeah. Oh, I should have dealt with this years ago. Why is this still bothering me?
Yeah.
Other people have it. Other people have it worse, and they're doing better than me.
Oh my God, these voices we have. Brutal. Yeah. I just love that you're so open and honest and willing to share all this stuff. I I'm so glad you were able to come back on the podcast and share this. It's so important. What would you say to somebody who has just relapsed and they're afraid to tell their sponsor like you were?
There's healing in that. It's that fear, but you're not going to get better if you're not honest.
Ooh.
You're not going to get better if you're not honest. You're lying to yourself first and foremost.
Yeah.
I have lied to my higher power, like, oh no, I don't need, push the higher power away.
I'm good.
But to pray, say a prayer before calling the sponsor. Say, Lord, help me make this phone call. I can't do this on my own. That's one phrase I use a lot is, Lord, I can't do this on my own. I need your help. And this came up. I'll show you right here. Well, I'm petitioning to get more time with my children. And so I just got from my attorney's assistant, 5:30 last night, a 37-page document that I have to fill in everything. Just like when you first go through a divorce, you have to fill out all this discovery stuff and interrogatories. And so it's, all your financials and what have you done over the last few years, drug and alcohol wise, so there's just 37 pages of my life over the last few years. And I got that. And immediately I went into prayer. I saw that document and I said, Lord, this is going to be hairy for me to have to fill out again. Please, I'm going to give this to you right now. I cannot go through this process on my own. I need your help. And before our call a little bit, I just started with a few questions. 37, I'm completely overwhelmed. It's going to take me weeks to pull out all of my financial information and bank statements and all that stuff. I just started with 2 questions. Going back to my buddy, he said, why don't you just start with 2 things today? So I answered the first 2 questions. And the first ones are kind of like my name, address, phone number, social security number. Okay, that's an easy one. Second one, fill that out and just start with that. So if somebody's just coming out of a relapse, say, Lord, I cannot do this on my own. I need your help. And I'm going to make this phone call and I'm terrified. But you know what? From a sponsor standpoint, they want to help you. They're there to help you. They're not there to judge. Most of them are not there to judge you. They're there to help and support you.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I would say if you've relapsed and you're in the relapse mode and you don't want to tell anybody, say, ask for God's help and go ahead and reach out and make that call. Then when you get off the call, when I got off the call, I felt so much better. I'm like, why was I waiting to do that?
I know. Isn't that funny?
I was just scared. I didn't want him to know. I didn't want to disappoint him. But there's so much healing in that pain. Yeah, there's healing in pain. The pain of making the phone call, the pain of working through that fear. There's pain. There's healing in the pain. Yeah.
Growing pains. Yeah. Well, we suffer the pain of growth as just as much as we suffer the pain of staying the same.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we're going to be in pain one way or the other.
Yeah.
You're going to suffer one way or the other. Not suffer, but you're going to.
Yeah. Suffer's fair. That's fair.
So we're going to be challenged whether we stay in our addiction or alcoholism and not do anything about it, or we're going to be challenged to step out and do the right thing, make the next right decision time and time again. There's challenges either way. Do you want a better life or do you want to stay where you're at and continue to go backwards? So be challenged in a positive way as opposed to challenge yourself with more DUIs, yelling at your spouse, your anger coming up when you're drinking or drugging, all those kinds of things. So each individual has their choice. They have the control.
Yeah, I love that. Wow. Well, I am excited to be watching your journey. Please let me know how I can support you in any way. I just feel like the work you're doing is so important. And I admire your frame of reference. I mean, your humility seems really important to you. It's so interesting because step 7, it's all about humility. And step 7 in the 12 steps, 12 traditions book, we call it the 12 and 12. Do you call it that where you're from too?
Yeah,
the 12 and 12. Yeah. It's like my favorite step because it right sizes me. It makes me feel like, oh, I don't have to do this all by myself. And there is help. I'm not alone. And it gives me hope that things can get better and just changes my perspective. It really kind of takes all the pressure off. So
yeah, absolutely.
Well, listen, thank you so much. If people want to reach out to you, it sounds like you're...
Yes, absolutely. So one, if you know of anybody who needs a speaker, definitely let me know. And then if you individually if something resonated with you during this podcast and you want to reach out to me and tell me some of your problems and we want to cry together on a phone call, absolutely. Give the best place, I just say go to Instagram. It's John Mabry Speaks, but Speak is actually abbreviated SPK. So John JOHN Mabry MABRY SPK is my Instagram. John Mabry's SPK.
I'll leave a link
feel free
to it in the show notes too.
Perfect. Yeah. Feel free to just reach out, man. I'm available to be of service any way that I can to anybody out there that needs some additional support.
Well, thank you so much for sharing your story. And I know it takes a lot of courage to, come back from relapse, but it's something that a lot of people experience, and it doesn't mean that we should give up. It's our experience can benefit others. So thank you so much for your courage and honesty and humility and sharing this. You really touched my heart.
Thank you. Thank you for the platform. Thank you for continuing to do what you do. You're helping me heal today and helping me stay sober today. So your continued work and all the hours you put in behind the scenes. Thank you for all that you do.
It's an honor. Thank you so much. You have a great day, John. We'll talk soon.
Great. Thank you. God bless.
One last thing before you go, you can follow the podcast on Instagram for daily inspiration at ODAT Podcast. And if you'd like to get a biweekly email from me with recommendations to books I'm reading, meditations I love, or other recovery podcasts, just sign up for it at odatchat.com. That's ODAAT chat.com. And if you do, I hope you enjoy it.
AI agents are everywhere, automating tasks and making decisions at machine speed. But agents make mistakes. Just one rogue agent can do big damage before you even notice. Rubrik Agent Cloud is the only platform that helps you monitor agents, set guardrails, and rewind mistakes, so you can unleash agents, not risk. Accelerate your AI transformation at Rubrik.com. That's RUBRIK.com.